Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and welcome to another Gameweek 17 deadline stream. So Gameweek 17 has been pretty interesting, right? Midweek games for a couple of teams like Brentford, Manchester City, Thiago obviously not playing, and then potentially being a doubt for this Wolves game. So lots of things happened during the midweek. Let's see how we get along in today's stream, but there's lots to discuss. And yeah, I just thought we should just catch up on the injury news. So I'm gonna rattle off a couple of notable injuries before we kind of get the stream started. So before we get on with that, thank you all of you guys for coming down early. Shunsho Namjel. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Right, nice to see you in the chat. Which two should I start among Bruno Guimaraes, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Thiago? I think you definitely start Thiago. It's probably going to be a case where you start Thiago. If he is fit, he'll play. If he's not fit, I don't think he'll come on. All right, so that's one. Afternoon, Lewis. Nice to see you in the chat. Toby, nice to see you in the chat as well. Wonder if Thiago plays. Yeah, I mean it's anyone's guess at this point. It's anyone's guess, but let's see what happens. I mean, basically what the Brentford manager said was nothing conclusive, right? Nothing conclusive at all, which is not great from an FPL perspective. So basically, he just said, I don't know yet is the honest answer around exactly how they are. They've been with the medics today. We'll see how they're going to go into the game on Saturday. I mean, it's pretty much, it's almost as if he didn't say anything. Free hit. So I'm using the free hit chip this game week. Please advise. This game week is actually pretty good for free hit, actually. If you look at the fixtures, right, there are quite a few to target. Right, Bournemouth versus Burnley, definitely one you're looking at. Brighton versus Sunderland, also something you could look at. I mean, Sunderland are pretty good, but Brighton are strong at home. Man City versus West Ham, you're probably going to be tripled up on Man City if you're on a free hit. And then Brentford versus Wolves is also a game you could target, right? But bearing in mind, you need to see if you're willing to take the risk with Thiago. I probably still have Thiago in the free hit though, because if he starts, he probably could go big there. And then Spurs versus Liverpool and Ekitike, maybe. Everton versus Arsenal, also games you could target. And yeah, I mean, the Everton versus Arsenal game, Everton are missing so many players that I honestly think Arsenal stand a very good chance. I mean, they obviously do, even before all those players got injured. But now it's like pretty much Keenan Dewsbury-Hall going to be out for a while. They also lost a couple of players to the African Cup of Nations. Iliman Njai, Idrissa Gana Gueye as well. Leeds versus Crystal Palace. So the Leeds versus Crystal Palace game, pretty much Glasner gave out the full lineup yesterday. I mean, I don't think I've seen a manager. There probably has been in the past couple of seasons, but I don't think I've seen it happen very often recently that the manager just basically gives out the full team lineup before the game, right? Pretty much in the press conference, the embargoed press conference yesterday, he just named the starting 11, which is honestly not anything far from what we expected. But yeah, to just get 100% confirmation is pretty interesting. So he did also say, right, before the Conference League game for Crystal Palace, that none of the players he started in the Conference League would start in the Premier League game over the weekend as well. He's obviously, managing all their minutes, etc. But he just listed all the players, right? So players, everyone that you expect will start for Crystal Palace starts, right? Mateta starts, Guehi starts, Richard starts. Daichi Kamada is injured, so Will Hughes comes in for him. But pretty much every other player, even Nketiah, is also starting, right? So the only absentee of note is Ismail Assar, who's currently in AFCON. And while we're on that topic, let me just rattle off a couple of more notable injuries before we get on. So for Leeds, Pretty much those who have been out are out, right? Dan James, Sean Longstaff, etc. For Sunderland, a couple of players have gone to the African Cup of Nations, but that's pretty much it. Thiago and Jordan Henderson are doubts for Brentford. For Nottingham Forest, Matt Sells has trained this week, so he should be fine. Awani is back on the grass as well. West Ham have lost Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Juve to the African Cup of Nations. So honestly, that one, you could see quite a high-scoring game for Man City. Lots of people are going to triple captain Haaland. If you're in my kind of position where I'm only going to captain him, we actually prefer that he doesn't haul. In fact, him hauling would hurt your rank more than him not, right? So pretty much, you just still have to captain him. It's still what I'm going to do. But actually, I'm hoping that he doesn't score as well, right? I'm obviously in the camp where I triple captained Haaland in game week against Leeds. I think game week 13, which did not turn out well. Let's have a look at other notable injuries. Dewsbury Hall will miss game week 17. Moyes did not give a conclusive time frame, but he'll be out. Jack Grealish is fit and available, so that's great. Brian Mbumo, Amad Diallo, Mazraoui have all left for the African Cup of Nations. Matthias de Ligt and Harry Maguire haven't recovered from injury, right? And then there's still a one-match suspension for Casemiro. For Wolves, nothing much to note. Man City as well, which is great news because those who you think would start probably will. Still no Doku though. So Doku and Shirky are the ones that most people were looking at as Man City entered this phase of their good fixtures. Obviously, aside from Foden and Haaland. But yeah, I think Shirky is a pretty interesting option right now. I really don't mind Shirky on a free hit if you guys want to go there. What else? Diego Gomez and Lewis Dunk suspended after their 5th yellow card of the season. And Dominic Soboslai has trained, but it'll be a late call. What else? I think that's pretty much it, right? That's pretty much the main things that we have to cover. And there's also nothing to suggest from Marco Silva that Raul Jimenez will be out, so he should be fine. He should be fine if you're looking at that. All right, so back to my team. For those of you that have just joined, welcome to the FPL Gameweek 17 deadline stream. Please do drop a like if you haven't already, and also subscribe to the channel as always. That really helps. But yeah, maybe I'll talk about my team before we get to a couple of quick fire questions from the chat, right? Thanks all of you for coming down early. It's 3 hours before the deadline. It's pretty much 3 hours before the deadline. There's lots of time to go. So let me start off with my team. So I have Raya in goal against Everton. I fancy this week we'll be able to keep a clean sheet there because Everton are missing a lot of key players. In defense, I have O'Reilly, Virgil van Dijk, and also Timber and Anderson. I probably should start Minte though. I should find a way to start Minte, even though he was not pictured in training. But I have been thinking about finding ways to get Minte into the team. But I also can't see myself dropping any of these players now. I probably should think about maybe Anderson. But then again, I kind of fancy his points for DEFCON as well. So it is something I'm thinking about. How do I fit Minte in? If Thiago misses out, then I guess this decision doesn't matter too much already. But I have a feeling that, I take my chances with Thiago as well. The good thing is that I have good bench cover this week. So that is something that helps the cause. But aside from that, there is a bit of a benching headache this week. I won't be starting Elliot Anderson. So it could be a case where both of my players called Anderson are on the bench. But yeah, there's a decision to be made, right? Whether I want to start Virgil van Dijk or Joachim Anderson. It's the one that I said over my transfer plans video as well. Who do I start, right, out of the two? So we'll see what happens. But captaincy for now is Haaland and vice captain is on Foden. I think the rest of the team kind of pick themselves, right? Semenyo is in here as well. I could be selling Semenyo soon, right? Foden against West Ham, Saka against Everton. I haven't made any transfers this game week. I don't think my team needs it because I have a bit of a benching headache as it stands already. Right, so there we go with my team. Right, we'll see what happens as we get along during the stream. But I think we're in an okay space. We're in an okay space. We've just used quite a number of free transfers. Last week, I used 4 free transfers in Gameweek 16. So I don't imagine that I should be making too many transfers after I've just done that. All right, so let's get on with some of your questions. Billy, nice to see you in the chat. Stewie as well. Good morning to all of you guys, or good afternoon, right, depending on where you are from. Billy says, hi Leon, help me start 2 out of Virgil van Dijk, Richards, or Elliot Anderson. For me, I probably would start Richards. out of the 3. I actually am thinking quite strongly about whether I should be benching Virgil van Dijk against Spurs away. Is it favorable to bench boost? I have 2 Chelsea defense, Sanchez and Chalobah. Also Van de Ven, João Pedro to perform this week. You have 2 Chelsea defenders in Sanchez and Chalobah. I mean, they play Newcastle. It's not going to be easy for them. I think the best way to answer your question is, will you have other weeks, say, for example, game week 18 or game week 19, that you have a better bench, have a stronger bench? If you do, then I think you could delay it. Right? I don't think this is a week that you have to use your bench boost. It doesn't seem as if it's absolutely necessary. Will Thiago start? That's the main question everyone's looking at. But I would say, if you have him, you still start him, similar to what I've done. I think if he is fit to play, he'll play from the start. If he's not, then I don't think he'll just come on, at the 70th minute. I don't think you're at risk of that. Risk it with the Kuiper or go with Richards? I'll probably go Richards for better DEFCON potential. Free hit punt, Palmer, Minte, Tavernier, Trossard, Cherki, Watkins, Haaland. Please advise. I do like Palmer as a bit of a differential in your free hit. Minte is fine as well, though probably not one of those that I definitely want to have in the team. I think for this week, Tavernier against Burnley is probably the differential I would go for at that kind of price point. Trossard, I probably want to start Trossard. I probably wouldn't go for Trossard. If you have an Arsenal attacker, I'd still go Saka. Cherki, Watkins, Haaland. Yeah, I mean, the rest, they're fine. The rest are fine. I don't actually think Watkins is absolutely necessary as well, but I get that you probably will have quite a bit of cash in your bank for a free hit, so it could make sense to just try and go for Watkins. He's turning a bit of a corner. He's scored a couple of goals in the last few games. My defense is Timber, Richards, Vandenberg, Mukele, and Virgil. Anyone downgrade to burn a transfer? So you're in a spot where you have 5 free transfers and you don't want to burn a transfer, so you just want to kind of make a transfer that you think longer term would be fine. I think definitely won't be selling Vandenberg this week against Wolves. Virgil is fine for a while, because if you look at Van Dijk's fixtures after Spurs, it gets pretty good, right? It's Wolves and then Leeds after that. So I don't think this is a week to sell Van Dijk as well. You just kind of hold him. Mukele, Richards is also not a week to sell Richards. Timber, I mean, yeah. So honestly speaking, I don't see a transfer that you should be using in this area. Maybe in your midfield or in your forward positions, take a bit of a punt if you have that kind of luxury. Nice to see you in the chat, Brett56271. I want to do 7 transfers for a -8. Welbeck to Giu, Eze to Bruno / Palmer, Gibbs White to Cunha, Njai to Wilson / Anderson, Munoz to Vandenberg, Burn to Richards, and Vicario to Sanchez. Well, firstly, it feels like a pretty much a wild card at this point. 7 transfers. I'm kind of looking at the players that you're taking out, and it does make sense to take them out. Munoz is injured, so it makes sense. Njai has left. Gibbs White is not exciting, so you could go to Cunha. I think the main question I would have is I don't mind this -8, but you should look at how many of these players you're actually starting, and if you are in a spot where you can drop it down to a -4 or even just do only 5 transfers, if the money still permits, of course. I think some of those moves there could be delayed by 1 game week or even 2 game weeks to give you a bit of leeway that you won't be taking so much of a hit just to field a strong team this week. All right, so I'll have a look at that. If not, I think overall there is some good reason to make the transfers that you're looking at, right? Burn, Munoz, etc. and Jai that's left to AFCON. It all kind of makes sense. Some news about Szoboszlai and Thiago, unfortunately, is what we have in the press conference, which is Thiago is a bit of a doubt. We don't really know whether he will start. Szoboszlai, though, he has trained, right? That's what Arne Slot has said, but we don't know any more other than that. Should I start Thiago? If you have Thiago, you definitely start him. If you have Thiago, you definitely start. Peter says, smash the like. Thank you very much for the plug. If you guys are just joining, please do help me out and drop a like on the stream. That would be very much appreciated. That would be very much appreciated. We're on 8 likes. I just had a look. We're on 8 likes. If you guys are just joining, please help me out and drop a like on the stream. That would be lovely. That would be absolutely lovely. Hendrix says, Timber, Chalobah, O'Reilly, Foden, Bruno Fernandes, Wilson, Semenyo, Saka, Thiago, Haaland. That team looks good, man. That team looks good. Baller X8 says, hi Leon, just bought Semenyo in for Josh King. Do I bench Raul or Minte? If it's between Raul or Minte, I'd probably bench Minte, because Raul is on pens. Even though Minte does have the better fixture, but I'm a sucker for penalty takers. That's the truth. Thank you very much for the plug, FPL Diamond. Appreciate that as always. FPL Wave says, morning, start Thiago or Bowen. Also, shout out to my son Henry. Yes, I love this. I love this. I love it when you join the streams because I know that you'll be coming with the shout outs to Henry. So I hope Henry's doing well. And Merry Christmas to Henry. Merry early Christmas. Thiago or Bowen. I do like Bowen. I do like Bowen after Man City. I think this week it's a tricky fixture for him. So this week I'd say still start Thiago ahead of Bowen. Henry says, if Szoboszlai will play, and if he's not, then who's a good option to change for him? So if you're in a spot where you have Szoboszlai, I don't think it's a must for you to start him this week. He has Tottenham away. And I do think that he'll be back next week, which is when the fixtures for Liverpool get good, right? After the Spurs game, it becomes Wolves and then Leeds. I think those are weeks you probably would want Szoboszlai to start. And he should be fine by then. So you don't make a transfer now, take him out, and then lose him for those 2 good fixtures. I think he's a case where you drop him down to the bench. Hopefully you have a good replacement for this week. And then get him into your starting 11 the week after. Elliot Anderson, Minte, Raul, Thiago, Semenyo, select 1 to bench. Has to be Elliot Anderson then. Who's more likely to start, Thiago or Szoboszlai? I'd say Szoboszlai because he has trained, but I would kind of take my chances with Thiago as well. Thank you for the question as well. Vincent, who's a member in the chat. Fred says, do you reckon I should start Anderson or Gehi? I start Gehi. Start Rice or Voltemada? I would start... tricky. I probably would start... It feels wrong to be benching Voltemada because he's playing at home. And Newcastle at home are very, very strong. Rice does have good DEFCON potential. I mean, not the best, but good enough DEFCON potential. And he's always a threat from... assist threat from the set pieces that he takes. Probably still go Voltemada. That one's close. Rinaldi says, would you bench boost with Dubravka, Richards, Minte and Szoboszlai, 2 free transfers, or go Szoboszlai to Shirky and then use the chip? If you're bench boosting, I wouldn't take a chance on Szoboszlai. I mean, it's different, right? Like for yourself, you're bench boosting. For the earlier question, not bench boosting. So it's different. If you're bench boosting, I would do the Shirky move. If you're not bench boosting, like the earlier question, then I would just keep Szoboszlai. Would you change Cucurella for Riley or Roll? I think it's an okay move. I don't think Chelsea's fixtures moving forward are absolutely necessary for you to have a defensive asset. So I don't mind going for O'Reilly. Alan, I see you in the chat. He says, start Virgil or Anderson. Same as you. Yeah, I mean, I'm currently benching Anderson. And I'm also benching Joachim Anderson from Fulham. Choosing to start Virgil van Dijk now. But it is something that I'm thinking about. Should I just bench Van Dijk just for this week? I don't think it's a case where I have to start him. But let's see. I also don't think it's impossible that Liverpool keep a clean sheet though. Keep Mateta or Thiago? Definitely Thiago. I think Mateta could be sold. But it could be sold in general. But this week the fixture is good for him and you know he's starting. So you have to kind of make a call there. Rishant says triple captain. Raya, Gehi, Chalobah, Collins, Timber, Wilson, Saka, Foden, triple captain. I'll probably triple captain Haaland though. Probably triple captain Haaland. Henry says Raya, Virgil, Chalobah, Richards, Vandenberg, Anderson, Foden, Bruno. Definitely not Adam Wharton, I think. I think there are more exciting options. Like even Wilson is fine. Even Wilson is fine. But yeah, if you're on a bench boost, I probably would sell Szoboszlai just to be sure. And you even have Thiago as well, so I probably have to make one of those transfers there. Risk it with the Kuiper or stick with Richards. I would stick with Richards. Aren't you scared of not having Bruno? I am. I mean, he is someone that has been hurting my rank for 2 to 3 game weeks already. The number of game weeks that he's pretty much gotten a double-digit haul, which is something that I think the first few game weeks or before he started hauling, he was always a rank threat to me because a lot of people still had Bruno, right? Because he wasn't someone that was not returning. He was always taking along 4 points, 5 points, 3 points, or when he gets DEFCON, like there's so many routes to points for him. Then obviously in the last few game weeks he's gone absolutely nuclear, and then the rank has absolutely fallen. So I do have plans to bring Bruno Fernandes in, but not this week because I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have Bruno Fernandes when he plays Aston Villa, right? So firstly, I don't think I want to have Bruno Fernandes this week. Secondly, or at least I'm not as afraid. Secondly, next week is also not an easy fixture for Bruno Fernandes. If you look at the fixture for game week 18, it's Newcastle, right? So, I mean, granted that Newcastle are not as good away from home, but it's still not a game that I think I absolutely have to have Bruno Fernandes. And then from Game Week 19, this is when I need to bring him in because they play Wolves, right? So definitely looking at Game Week 19, bringing Bruno Fernandes in. So I'll speak about my transfer plans in a bit. But yeah, I definitely am kind of looking to bring Bruno Fernandes into the team sooner rather than later. Who is the penalty taker for Fulham? It's Raul Jimenez at this point. Lionel, nice to see you in the chat. Thank you for liking. If you haven't dropped a like in the stream, please do drop a like. It really helps the channel. Richards of Palace or Anderson of Fulham? Who would you bench? I would start Richards and I would bench Joachim Anderson. Big up to you as well, Faisal. Anderson of Fulham or Wilson? I'd start Wilson. Lionel says, I'm doing Pope to Verbruggen. I think that's a fine move as well. I think that's fine. I've seen a couple of keeper transfers being made recently, potentially because of the 5 free transfers that we got in Game Week 16, that I also made a keeper transfer. I brought Raya in. But I think at that point, there were a couple of keepers I was looking at, right? Verbruggen was one of them, for sure. I think you could even have considered the Brentford keeper, right? Kelleher. So fixtures are pretty decent for a couple of the cheaper keepers, so it's not absolutely necessary to go for Raya. I have gone for him just because the funds allowed for it, and longer term I want him. But yeah, those kind of keepers like Verbruggen, even Pickford a few game weeks down the line, that is fine as well. Unholy Holy says, are you not playing the triple captain? Unfortunately, I'm in the camp of people or FPL managers who used my triple captainship against Leeds when Haaland was playing Leeds and he only got 2 points. So unfortunately, I don't have the chip anymore. FPL Wave says, appreciate it as ever. Hope you have a good Christmas. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for that. Dewsbury Hall to Wilson. Yeah, that works as well. But Wilson is still, in my opinion, a short-term pick. So you have to kind of look at potentially after Game Week 19 onwards, where could you go with Wilson? Selby, nice to see you in the chat as well. 6th stream. What do you think? Should I play Anderson or Rice or Bruno Guimaraes? Out of the three, I'd probably say Declan Rice. I'll probably say Declan Rice if I have to pick one. Excuse me. Would you start Soboslai or Krupi Jr.? Probably Soboslai. I think Krupi Jr. doesn't start. I still think Evan Nielsen will start. Lionel says, I'm on a bench boost. Verbruggen, Dubravka, Timber, Senesi, Vandenberg, Anderson, Van de Ven as well. Saka, Semenyo, Minte, Wilson, Foden, Thiago, Mateta, Haaland. Brought in Wilson for Dewsbury Hall. Actually, that team looks really strong, if I'm honest. I can see that you have pretty good fixtures for most of your players. Thiago, Mateta, and Haaland both are fine. All are fine, and Mateta plays Leeds as well. He's a bit of a differential at this point. Most people have moved off of him. Wilson, also another differential. All right, Minte, Semenyo, Saka. Van de Ven, I think maybe a little bit less of an ideal fixture, but that's okay. All right, and then Anderson, Vandenberg, Senesi, Timber, Dubravka. Great fixtures. I hope the bench boost works out well for you, Lionel. Chelsea fixture starting from Game Week 24 is good though. Yes, but by that time, you have lots of transfers. You can bring Chelsea defenders in again. We're now in Game Week 17, so there's still quite a few more transfers that will come. There's quite a few more. I think there will be options that arise when that time comes around. Like FPL just changes so quickly that Game Week 24, even though it's pretty close, with the number of transfers we've been given recently, I think there's room to just be a little bit more aggressive, target the fixtures that are good now, and then when Gameweek 24 comes around, switch to getting those Chelsea players. I'm keeping an eye out for Cole Palmer for sure. I'm looking at whether Saka to Cole Palmer is something I could do further down the line, but let's see whether he gets consistent minutes or not. Bench 1 from Rice, Voltemada, and Minte. Probably Rice. Triple captain Foden seems sick. I probably wouldn't though. Have me start 2 out of Virgil, Van Dijk, Richards, or Elliot Anderson. I would bench Elliot Anderson, start the other 2. Start Anderson or Vandenberg. I start Vandenberg. Should I choose Wilson or Anderson this week? Wilson. I'll choose the attacker over the defender. AA Ong says, hi FPL Consult. Who are the best replacements for Dewsbury Hall? I think if you have the luxury of transfers, I think Harry Wilson is someone I would be quite keen on as a very, very short-term punt. Very, very short-term. If you're looking at longer term, then it really depends on your budget. How much money do you have? Can you go for someone like around the 6 million-ish bracket? Can you stretch to a Minte, for example? Would you start Voltemada? Voltemada, Calvert-Lewin, or Anderson? Out of those 3, I'd start Voltemada. In Gameweek 18, if Thiago blanks, would you change with Bowen or Ekitike? At this point, I'm not looking at selling Thiago so quickly. I mean, yes, he's had a couple of blanks, but I think the fixtures are okay for him. The fixtures are okay, actually, for quite a while. Oh, you can't really... Okay, hopefully it's at the right-hand side of the screen, right? So it's Wolves, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Everton, Sunderland, Chelsea, Forest. Like, if you can find those weeks where you can just bench Thiago, I think Thiago is an asset that has done pretty well for me. I'm not in a situation where I'm desperate to sell him. I jumped on him when he was a full 1 million cheaper, like 6.2 million. So I bought him in probably around game week 8, game week 9, around this kind of a period, probably game week 8. But yeah, I'm not in a rush to sell him, right? So the earliest I look to sell him is probably game week 25, I would say. Right, definitely not going to sell him in game week 18. I probably have more transfers that I want to make elsewhere, like prioritizing Bruno Fernandes into my team. Bench Richards or Cash? I would bench Cash and I start Richards. Why captaining Haaland instead of Foden? Haaland's on pens. I mean, Haaland is Haaland. Strongly believe that Manchester United will be weaker after losing right side attacking threat, so I will play against Bruno Fernandes, and it's true as well. It is a huge gamble. But it is also true, I would say, that we're in a situation where I could reassess, right? That's why I haven't moved for him yet. We could reassess how the lack of Brian Mbeumo and the lack of Amad Diallo actually affects Manchester United's performance. Can they survive or keep up a higher level of performance in the Premier League without those players? And if they can, and if Bruno Fernandes continues to look decent, I would still make that transfer. It's just something at the back of my mind. Like, FPL is a very, very fluid game. So let's see what happens as we go along. And the games are coming thick and fast anyway. So let's see. Would you do Keenan Dewsbury Hall to Semenyo or just roll if the team is looking pretty strong? I would get Semenyo in for Keenan Dewsbury Hall. He's not back until January, and Semenyo you can think of it as an excuse for you to get Semenyo. Bring in Gravenberch for Enzo. Great fixtures coming up. and seems to be achieving 5 points per game. So I've seen Gravenberch as an option that has come up recently. I've seen a couple of people talking about him. I would put Szoboszlai ahead of Gravenberch. And therefore, I would wait to see if Szoboszlai is fit. If Szoboszlai is, I would go for Szoboszlai, even though he's on 4 yellows. Brian says, hi Leon, I have Senesi, Anderson, Goodmanson, Timber, Van Dijk, Foden, Bruno, Saka, Anderson, Minte, Giu, Thiago, and Haaland. Whom should I bench this week? Has to be Giu. Probably bench Giu. Who do you think I can bring in for Van de Ven? If you have the luxury of transfers, and I remember your team does have Vandenberg already. You've brought Verbruggen in, so you cover the Brighton defense as well. I think longer term, because you're on a bench boost, you're probably looking pretty short term as well. But if you are making a transfer now, I would try to still bring in someone that has good fixtures now, but also good fixtures in the longer term. It's tricky. Can you stretch to a Sorry, this is Gameweek 19, my bad. I mean, I actually don't mind someone like a Richards if you can get there. I mean, they have good fixtures. They have leads now in Gameweek 17. Plus, longer term, having a Crystal Palace defender is never a bad thing with the way that they've been returning. But if you can afford Gehi, I would go Gehi. I like Gehi over Richards if you can afford. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Crystal Palace defenders probably. Looking at the other defenders you already have in your team. Seven says O'Reilly. If you don't have O'Reilly, did you not have O'Reilly? Let me have a look. Verbruggen, Dubravka, Timber, Senesi, Vandenberg. Yeah. If you don't have O'Reilly, you probably could go there. But he is rather expensive though. I'm not sure if you have the funds for that because you have Semenyo, Foden, Thiago, Mateta, and Haaland. That's a pretty expensive front three. So assuming you don't have that much cash, then probably Richards at that kind of price point. I think Nottingham Forest is coming back. They have been, but they're also not extremely consistent. So I would say they're kind of where they should be right now, which is around the mid-tier kind of a team. Henry says, wait for Gabriel until Gameweek 20 news, or should I keep Virgil van Dijk? I think you definitely keep. And Virgil van Dijk, exactly as you said, is a great 1-to-1 swap by the time Gabriel comes back, which is not going to be very long, not going to be very far away. O'Reilly or the crowd? Definitely O'Reilly. Without any Arsenal attackers this game week, all-in Arsenal defense worth it? I don't think I would though. I don't think I would. And it's not really because I don't trust the Arsenal defense, but mainly because I think there are weeks moving forward you could back against them. It's Everton now. After that is Brighton at home. Aston Villa in Gameweek 19, not easy. Bournemouth away. Liverpool at home. Nottingham Forest away. Manchester United at home. I think there is some cause for you to back against the Arsenal defense instead of going for triple Arsenal defense. So I wouldn't say that that's something I do this week, especially when you make transfers, you're kind of committing for a while. Alan says, hi bro, regarding Liverpool versus Fulham has higher clean sheet odds. Why are you starting Virgil van Dijk ahead of Anderson? So yes, exactly as you say, I am thinking of whether I should start Anderson ahead of Van Dijk. Anderson obviously is slightly better than Van Dijk for defensive contributions. It is something I'm thinking about. So definitely will update you guys as I post my team on the socials after the stream. Evening, FPL Shane. Nice to see you in the chat. Okay, give me a moment. I'm about to just pop out for a quick one. I'll be back. All right, back. I probably should do some team reviews as I should probably bring team reviews back onto the streams. What do you guys think about that? The issue is I only stream for an hour though. I could obviously stream for longer. But if I bring team reviews back, I probably have to start about 4 hours before the deadline. So let me just do a bit of a poll. Take note for future reference, but would you like team reviews let me know what you guys think. It's something I've been thinking about, but it just means that we'll have to start a bit earlier, if you guys are all right with that. Henry says, for Gameweek 18, maybe I change Thiago, maybe I change Ekatike or Bowen. I think Thiago is fine to keep though. Honestly, I think Thiago is fine to keep. It's pretty team dependent though. How does your team look like? How do you feel about Bruno Guimaraes to Shirky? I feel like Newcastle has looked weak recently. So what I'll say is Bruno Guimaraes and Newcastle as a team are much stronger at St. James's Park, which is where they're at this week. And that said as well, I feel like Shirky is a very decent option for the next few game weeks. The only thing is rotation, right? As the festive period comes in, there will be rotation. I think you have to kind of factor that in, right? You have to factor that in. Melvin, I see you in the chat. Afternoon, he says, I have Soboslai. Should I start him? I have Mateta as my first sub, or should I transfer him out? I'd actually be starting Mateta instead of Soboslai. So that's what I do. Anderson to Shirky, or is Wilson or Tavernier a more sensible pick for the medium term? I actually would be tempted to go Shirky if you could afford. Tavernier is pretty much a 1 week punt, if you ask me. And Wilson, maybe the maximum you get out of him is 2 game weeks. After that, you probably have to bench him. Shirky, I think, is someone you could start for a bit more game weeks. He's looking great now as well. And the fixture right now in GW17 is great. It's West Ham. After that, it also starts to continue looking good for quite a period of time until you have to take him out. So, like in terms of how long you could have them as a pick, I just like Shirky. DR7K34 says, Raya Dubravka, Senesi, Gordon, Anderson, Calafiori, Theo, Bruno, Minte, Foden, Semenyo, Wilson, Mateta, Haaland, Thiago. Any changes? 0.6 in the bank, bench boost active. How many transfers do you have? I mean, even though you're on a bench boost, I will still try to make longer term transfers, like transfers that you'd be happy to stick with those players for a while. How do you feel about Keane starting next week? Well, the thing about Everton is that we have to see how they fare without those kind of key players. Keenan Dewsbury Hall is now out. Idrissa Gana Gueye, very key in the midfield, also out. How do they fare with these players missing? And if they're in a spot where you're confident enough, I'm happy to have Michael Keane in your team and start him against Burnley. Start Gravenberch over Bruno Guimaraes. Nah, I start Bruno Guimaraes ahead of Gravenberch this week. 3 free transfers. 3 free transfers. I think you probably could take Theo out, if I'm honest. Like, you don't actually have to make any pressing transfers looking at your team, but if you want to optimize the fixtures a little bit, Theo, who's probably on your bench because he plays Chelsea, you could swap him out for either a Crystal Palace defender, or O'Reilly is someone you could look at if you have the funds for that. Decided to go from Dewsbury Hall to Stack. Hopefully move to Bowen from Thiago next week. Do you think Bowen is a better asset because of West Ham's fixtures ahead? I really don't mind the West Ham fixtures. But the issue with West Ham is that I want to have a bit more of a look at how they fare without some of the key players missing, which is Aaron Wan-Bissaka and also Diouf. So the two of them missing, even though it's in defense, it affects the build-up, right? I think a couple of key players that have started for them for the past few weeks missing overall would have an impact on the team. In which case, I would say have a look first before we move to Bowen. Especially now he plays Man City, so no real rush to go there. But yeah, players like Bowen, Bruno Fernandes, all players that I'm going to be monitoring, because most of these teams that we speak about, like West Ham, Manchester United, even Everton, right? These are teams that have lost key players to the African Cup of Nations. So I definitely am going to spend a bit of time this weekend watching some of the games and also just assessing how they do or how they fare without these key players. Obviously, it's not a case where these players are going to be missing for a really long period of time. If they happen to exit in the group stage, you could see them back as early as game week 20 or 21. I did an African Cup of Nations video and its impact on FPL a couple weeks ago. And if they are out in the group stage, you could see some players back as early as game week 20. So if you're in a situation where you're going for a team that you expect those players to come back by the time game week 20 comes around, you could take a bit of a gamble, right? Ramadian says, I have Raya, Timber, Senesi, Virgil van Dijk, Bruno, Foden, Shirky, Saka, Haaland, Thiago, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 2 free transfers. Plan is to bench boost in 18. I think you should. I think you should go for Semenyo still. I think you should. If you have the funds for it, which I think you do, I think I would. Even bench boosting in game week 18, Semenyo has Brentford. It's not the worst fixture in the world, so it's fine. Lionel says, no money for O'Reilly. I mean, it was what I expected with such an expensive forward line. So if you have 4.7, then yeah, Richards. That's where I go. Leeds. Then you bench boost this week. Yep. Why are you benching Anderson against Nottingham Forest? Well, Ryan, I am actually thinking of starting Anderson ahead of Van Dijk. So let's see what happens. But I get what right now that is the only decision I'm looking at. It's between starting two out of Van Dijk, Minte, and Anderson. Maybe I should put that up in a poll as well. Give me a moment. Right, so actually only 2/3 of you guys want a team review. We could do that. I mean, let's see what happens as we go along. But thank you for voting in the poll. I'm gonna need some help from you guys. I will be spending the next couple of hours closer to the deadline thinking about this. But can you help me start? Who to bench out of... No, bench... Sorry, I should change this. Bench 1 out of Virgil, Anderson, and Minte. I'm definitely starting Thiago. You know what? Let's throw Raul Jimenez in there as well. Okay, so just nice. I have 4 options in the poll. Anderson, Minte. I'd be interested to know where you guys think I should go. So, poll is out. Please help me out to bench one out of Virgil van Dijk, Anderson, Minte, and Raul Jimenez. This is probably my dilemma for this week. I would appreciate if you guys could help me out there. Already 6 votes in. Seeing quite a few votes for Raul Jimenez already. All right, we'll come back to the poll in a bit. Appreciate all the help. Nunes or O'Reilly, which one is a more nailed asset? I would say that O'Reilly is the one that I feel has more attacking potential. And I'm not worried of O'Reilly's minutes because Ryan Ait-Nouri has gone to the African Cup of Nations. Although it's not impossible that they could start maybe... Sorry, I had a bit of a brain blank. Ruben Diaz in centre back, and then push Vardiel out to the left and have someone else stand in centre back. It could be Nathan Ake, it could be John Stones when they're back. But yeah, I just think that O'Reilly is someone that I'm not super afraid of in terms of minutes. So yeah, I would say O'Reilly still ahead of Nunes, Matthias Nunes, because I prefer O'Reilly's attacking threat. Should I start Anderson or Richards? Forrest seems to be back in form. I would start Richards ahead of Anderson. Let's just have a look at the poll. 24 votes already. There's 80 of you guys watching. Please help me out and vote in the poll. Some of you guys are still saying Anderson though. You see, which is probably why right now I would just default to something like this. Let's see. Because I'm fully aware that Joachim Anderson is someone that could continue to get clean DEFCON points even though he loses the clean sheet. So it's completely possible. Like, I see that. I see why some people would want to start him. But I also don't think a clean sheet is super secure for Anderson. Should I play a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2 this week? Not sure to bench Anderson, Van Dijk, Senesi, or Anderson in midfield. I don't have any more free transfers and 0.6 in the bank. Well, I don't think you have to use a transfer. I think your team as is should look fine. If you're looking at benching these players, I probably would bench Elliot Anderson and then play a 4-4-2 basically. Who is the best replacement under 5.8 million for Dewsbury Hall? So there's a couple that I would look at. Let me just get it up. So looking at midfielders cheaper than, let's just put 5.5 for, are you looking at 5.8? So let's look at kind of the less than 6 million bracket. Let me just check if you guys can see it on screen. Okay, you can't. But I'll rattle off a couple of names that I think are worth looking at. I would say that Wilson, 5.7, could consider, but Nottingham Forest is not super easy. Tavernier, 5.6 million against Burnley this week is interesting. Gravenberg, I wouldn't go there. I still think Soboslai is a better asset than Gravenberg, so I wouldn't go there. Aside from that, Elliot Anderson, but I don't think longer term he's someone that I would want to keep in the team. Caicedo, but not extremely exciting as well. So it is pretty tight, the options that you have. Yeah, I'll probably say the ones that I've already listed are where I'd go. Right, so just to kind of summarize it, it would be... So I apologize if it's a bit... I'm scrolling at the side, looking at the list of midfielders. So yeah, Wilson, 5.7 million. Second would be Tavernier, 5.6 million. And I would say last, if you really want to go there, is Elliot Anderson. So in that order for me. in that order. Okay. Let me put the team screenshot back. Apologize for the scrolling. Thoughts on Van Heck? I think he's fine. Like even going for Verbruggen as a defensive asset is also fine, right? He's a keeper, obviously, but I think if you can find some form of rotation for Brighton assets, I don't mind it. Just bear in mind that this week, Brighton are missing Lewis Dunk, so maybe Sunderland is not a team that they keep a clean sheet against this week. Would you start Anderson in defense for a back four, or play stack and bench Anderson? Would I start Anderson in defense or a back four and play stack and bench Anderson? I'll probably go for a back four. I'll probably start Anderson instead of playing stack. Sunderland defense is pretty good, no? Yeah, well, I still take my chances with Minte playing Sunderland at home, even though defensively they're pretty alright. Actually, Sunderland, they started the season strong, but in recent games they have been conceding some chances, I would say. Is Thiago going to play? Well, it's everyone's guess at this point. Anyone who tells you that they know Thiago is going to start or not going to start is lying to you, because there was absolutely no conclusive update in the press conference yesterday. Which chip is okay this week? Wildcard, bench boost, free hit. I would say this week, because there are quite a number of fixtures to target, I quite like the free hit. And if you're in a spot where you have lots of chips remaining, I would prioritize the free hit chip. Because not every week you're going to have as many fixtures to target like now in Gameweek 17. I'm on a bench boost this week with Dubravka, Richards, Raul, and Mukiele. That looks fine. I hope that works out for you. Alright, so I think that's about it. We'll see where we go with my benching dilemma. But if not, captaincy for me is pretty straightforward. It's going to be Haaland this week. Most of you guys looking at the poll are still asking me to bench Joachim Anderson. I'm still right there with you guys as well. So we'll see whether closer to the deadline I start Anderson ahead of Van Dijk. If not, that's it for the Gameweek 17 deadline stream. So thank you all for coming down. I appreciate that. If you enjoyed the stream, please do subscribe. And yeah, there will be more content coming. I understand that recently there hasn't been as much content, but basically work has been catching up since I got back from the long trip that I took around Game Week 12 and Game Week 13. So I'm still catching up with work, and it's also the festive period as well. So managing all this with content. Will do my best to get as much content out as possible, but if not, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all of you coming down, and all the best for Game Week 17. I will catch you in more Game Week 18 content that will be coming very, very soon. Bye-bye.